All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. It's been a long time since we've done a live stream here at Reimagine Appalachia, and I can't imagine doing it with a better group of folks this afternoon. So I am Natalia Rudiak with Reimagine Appalachia, and I have a number of guests here with me today talking about a really important issue in Southern West Virginia. I have here with me today Reverend Caitlin Ware, who is a United Methodist Provisional Elder serving churches in Tucker County, West Virginia. She was born and raised in North Central West Virginia, growing up in Flemington. She's interested in the intersections of economic, social, and environmental justice in coal communities. And Caitlin is focused on the reclamation of West Virginia's land, people, and story, beginning with God's movement from below in the coalfields of West Virginia. Welcome, Caitlin. We're so happy to have you. We also have Reverend Brad Davis, who is a United Methodist elder serving churches in McDowell County, West Virginia. As a native of Central Appalachian coal country, Brad has a passion for the revitalization of its land and people. His ministry focuses on issues related to coalfield justice and community renewal, and the church's role in co-laboring with God to bring them to fruition. Beautifully said. And I'm so excited that we have here today residents of McDowell. We have Betty Stepp and Diane Farmer. Hello, hello. So glad you could join us today. From Anawalt and Leckie. Did I get that correct?
Yes.
Or is it the opposite? Yes. Okay. So we are here today to talk about a water crisis. We've heard a lot about water crises in different parts of the country, but you may not have heard that much going on in Southern West Virginia, but we are here to bring attention to this issue. And for everybody out there today, this is live streaming on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So hopefully we'll have a few people joining us here today. And if there are any questions from folks in the chat, I'm going to ask my colleagues from behind the scenes to send them to me. And hopefully we'll be able to get to your questions along the way. But we'll be here for, let's see, about another 40 minutes or so, or 30, 40 minutes to talk about what's going on in y'all's neck of the woods and how everybody out there can help both materially at this moment in time, but policy-wise in the future. So before we get to the issues at hand, I really wanted to make sure that we get to that we first talk about what makes McDowell County home for you all. Why is it such a special place? And what do you love about the community in which you live? So I'm going to hand it over to our residents first to maybe answer that question.
Do you want to go first?
Okay, I'm Diane, and what makes McDowell County special to me is I live on family land that's been owned by my family since the 1800s at least, probably longer than that. I've never wanted to live anywhere else. I grew up surrounded by family, a lot of family and a lot of friends in the little community that I'm a part of. And like I say, I've never wanted to live anywhere else, never really have a desire to live anywhere else. And this is the place that I want to be until I pass away and then be buried.
I'm showing the water. Can you show? Can you see where? Oh, hello. This is Betty Stepp. I worked for 40 years for the Board of Education as a kindergarten aide. I was born in Anawalt. My mother delivered me herself. I left for 1 month and came home. And it has been home ever since then. I lived in the Leckie area and moved to the Anawalt area because it was closer to the school and because my mother lived in Anawalt. I love the children. I love the beauty of the country. And like Diane, I never want to leave. Even though our children left, to get a job. They left, and but my husband and I want to be there. He was born also in Anawalt, and I think our community. I knew the kids. I knew that they grew up, became parents, and then I helped teach the grandchildren. So it's a place I don't want to leave. Uh, I love it. I love the neighbors. I love where I live. But
Mm, mm,
I don't want to see them suffer. I don't want to see this with the water. Every people having to carry their water, and uh, it's a basic thing that we've done without for many years. Is to think that we're always put to the back. Anawalt is always
mm.
put to the backside because we were a small country, part of the county, small community. Our school was a small school, and then they eventually closed it. So um, I want to see it grow. We've got some, we've got
Right.
some people coming in that are bringing campers and going side-by-siding or four-wheeling, whatever they call it, and they want water. They want good drinking water, and uh, they want to come into our area. We want them to come in. We want to become
Yeah.
a community of old people, which we are. I am.
Well, we had Reverend Ware and Reverend Davis as relative newcomers, I suppose. What can you tell us about the community that you were surrounded by?
Yeah, so I am not a native of McDowell County. I grew up, I was born and raised in the next county over, which is Mingo County. But I have been here for 2.5 years now, pastoring 5 churches, and I promise you, you will not find better people anywhere in the world. Uh, as far as neighborliness goes, as far as kindness goes, the best people on earth, period, point blank. Even in the southern coalfields, which is known for our hospitality, McDowell County is just different in that respect. Uh, but in addition to that, you also won't find any stronger people, any more resilient people, because by all rights we shouldn't still be here, because of all the
Right.
obstacles that this community faces, including the water situation. But yet here we are. Yet we keep persisting,
Mhm.
and we're not going anywhere. And we're going to work to ensure that Betty and Diane and their families and all that are alike, that live here, their neighbors, don't have to go anywhere either. That they can stay, like Betty and Diane
Mhm.
say, they want to stay here because they've been here all their lives. This is their home, and they want to be here until they die. And we hope and pray that uh, they can do that as well as everybody else
Mhm.
in this county.
Mhm. Thank you. Reverend Ware, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
I'll just say, I'm actually, native North Central West Virginia. I didn't grow up in or around the southern coal fields. I grew up in the northern coal fields. But I remember saying to Brad, like the first time that I had visited McDowell, I was like, all I can see is potential. I mean, all I see everywhere is potential. Um, and yeah, like they said, it's a beautiful area. I mean, the hills, the people, the land is gorgeous. Um, and I think there is a lot of good, positive hope for McDowell.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Right. Um, well, let's get into this. Let's crack into this water situation. So maybe I'll throw this back out to the residents. Maybe you can tell me a little bit about the beginning of, and I don't know how far back this goes. So you tell our audience, you tell us, um, when did you get suspicious about the water quality in this area? Has this always been a thing? Is this a newer thing? How did these concerns start coming about?
I'd be Diane.
Okay, that would be Diane. I'm on a private well. And like I say, I live now across the road from where I grew up. We never had water problems. My husband and I married and established a home on family property in 74. In 70, up until in the 1980s, they started drilling for gas wells. And after that, our well became what they call a slow refill well. The water was not going back into the well the way it had before. Then we took steps we lived with it for a lot of years, having to use our water sparingly and everything, but it was still clean, it was still clear, it was still usable. Then during the flood of 2001, our water had become contaminated, so we had another well dug. At that time, we had plenty of water. It was clean, it was usable. And then I think it was in like 2019, there was several strip mines across the road from where we live, and our water started getting with rust colored and everything in it. And since then, it's just deteriorated till we use the water to clean, to take showers, and to not even really to wash our clothes. It's become to the point that we have to pay attention to what color clothing we buy because we know our water will ruin it. We are now, we buy bottled gallons of water to do our cooking and to make coffee. We do not even give our animals our well water. We buy water for them also. My husband and I both have health problems that we are required to drink water a day. I'm supposed to drink at least a gallon of water a day due to kidney issues. And we buy bottled drinking water all the time. And at this point, my husband is disabled, and it's just becoming a chore getting the water, getting it home, and getting it into our house. We do have a water filtering system on our well, but it's not adequate. It's just not doing the job anymore. We are in the process of trying to get a new filter that they claim will be better. But right now, with our age, the water systems, you have to put salt in, and the salt comes in 40 to 50-pound bags. And my husband is no longer able to lift the bags and put it in the conditioner. Our son-in-law and daughter also moved back on family property in my mother's house, and they are suffering the same issue, but they do help us out. But it's just becoming a hassle. The only thing we want to do is be able to have clean water, to be able to go in and start a load of laundry anytime you need to, instead of having to look at the quality of the water that's coming out your faucet at that time.
And if you all can see this, this is a sample of Diane's water that she brought in that came out of her tap today. That's and you can see the sediment in the bottom of the bottle.
That's shocking. That is awful. So sorry you're having to deal with that. It's a travesty. I'll hand it over to Betty. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've been facing?
When the flood came, the last flood came, I lived in Leckie, and we lived in a single wide trailer, and the mountain came down and tilted our trailer on its side. And so we tried to straighten it back up, but in front of the trailer, we would have had to put a wall. We had a half a wall already, but we bought a house and moved down to Anawalt. And then it clicked on me at that time. The lady that sold us the house said, well, we have new water lines that they were put in 1974. And so we've lived there 20 years in that house. And the lines break almost on a weekly basis. And they say boil water. Be sure and boil your water before you eat or drink from it. And I do it all the time because I don't know where the break is. And there's after the school left out and the town newspaper closed, you don't know if you're on boil water or not. You just assume you are. And the thing that really hurt me was when my grandchild came and he said, why can't I get a drink of water out of your spigot? Or why can't I use your refrigerator to get water? And I told him, we can't drink this water. We have to use the bottles. And at that time, I thought, oh, this is bad. And then I started talking to the neighbors, and Brad happened to bring it up about another county having bad water problems. And I said, we have water problems too. And then the neighbors started talking, and Brad has really been a blessing to us to get this going, trying to get help with the water.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, well, that's actually my next question is to Reverend Ware and Reverend Davis. How did you get connected to this issue? And how much water have you delivered so far?
Which one of us do you want to go?
I hand it over to you.
Okay.
Brad.
So I was first made aware of the issue through a related water issue in a neighboring county, Wyoming County, who's having their own massive issues with their water as well. I was first alerted to what was going on with them back in 2023, but then it popped back up last February of 2024, through some videos that were being shared online. And I brought it up in church one Sunday. Again, I've got 5 churches, but I brought it up at my first service that Sunday, which happens to be with the church that Diane and churches rather that Betty and Diane are a part of. And I brought it up. I was like, Wyoming County is having problems with their water. We ought to think about ways that we can help our neighbors with this. And as Betty said, they spoke up and like, well, we've got problems with our water too. So that started the conversation and discovering, that Lackey and Anawalt and the city of Gary as well as some other communities in the county that our churches don't serve, were having these water problems. So Caitlin and I started talking about how we can step up and try to help through the church. And our first bottled water distribution was last March. So we're coming up on a year since we've been giving out water. And to date, we've given out over 2,000 cases of water in just under a year. And we just, and then I'll turn it over to Caitlin and let her add what she wants to talk about the issue. But we just obtained a 500-gallon water buffalo through our conference's disaster response team, which is going to allow us to provide water to folks in a much more sustainable, much more environmentally friendly way, where we're not having to stack our landfill here full of plastic bottles all the time. So that's getting ready to get ramped up and rolled out next month. But as I always tell folks, handing water to people, giving water to people, that direct service, it's a need. People have to have it, but that's not the solution. That's simply putting a Band-Aid on the gaping wound of lack of access to clean water here in the county.
Great. And actually, Caitlin, I'll hand this over to you, but then maybe you can start us off on the conversation of, I know this is a big question, but like, what is needed to fix the water system? I don't know if you can add on to that and try to answer that question a
Yeah.
little bit.
So, yeah, the way I ended up getting connected was I was actually doing a graduation requirement, like a summer placement, and I knew I was interested in coalfield ministry. I was very determined. I wanted to explore that some more. So I served the summer in Gary, in McDowell County, and worked with Brad's churches. And we ended up having a community meeting where we were just curious to see, you know, what they had a number of community meetings before, first off, that caused some, you know, trepidation of like, we understand, you know, people have come in, said they want to do something after a community meeting, and then they don't follow up, right? But I do remember that one of the things that was mentioned in that community meeting as a challenge was infrastructure. And at the time, this would have been a number of months before we were aware of what was happening in McDowell County related to water. But you know, we were like, we want to continue working with the folks in McDowell and following up after that community meeting. And all sorts of things, all sorts of projects and things kind of cropped up not long after that, you know, related to Edge, Jason Hart's farm, and all of that. But yeah, long story short, we had done an immersion that we called From Below, an immersive coalfield experience, where we took people through McDowell and we just shared about the culture and the history of the area, the West Virginia mine wars, and we kind of ended up marrying the two. We said like, okay, well, you know, what if From Below becomes more than an immersive experience? We're activating people across the state to support residents in the coal fields. And so now that's kind of how we're trying to get the word out about the water crisis now is through our group From Below. And so currently, our what we've got at the moment is in Gary, West Virginia, you've got 468 impacted homes. Anawalt is 130 impacted homes, and Lackey's got 60 impacted homes. And what each of them are struggling with water outages, water treatment issues, and the like. And my understanding is the source for both of those systems is an abandoned mine, which already has me asking a lot of questions regarding that. But anyway, so in the situation of Gary, they're looking at kind of black water to orange water, and they the McDowell County PSD has offered to take over their sewage infrastructure if they can take over their water infrastructure. So they would want to control both their wastewater and their water. And there's been some back and forth on whether or not they would do that because it could cause rate increases. And
Uh-oh.
Did we lose Reverend Ware? I see all right, we might have lost her. Well, I'll punt it over to you. Hopefully she'll come back.
I'm so
You're back. You're back. No, it's okay. It happens. But yes, you were talking about combining the like sewer and water.
And so that they would only agree to allow the PSD to take that municipal city system over if they could take over both systems. And that would be a loss of revenue for Gary in an area that's already struggling for money, right? And so there's been a lot of back and forth on that, but it looks like the West Virginia Public Service Commission is going to force them to do it. Essentially, that's what a recent article seemed to say. As far as Anawalt and Leckie, like with Anawalt, they have an approved project, and I'm looking at Betty because Betty's husband's the man, so you correct me. But Anawalt has an approved project ready to go, but has not obtained the funding necessary to make it, go into motion. And so another part of that too is it would cost $3 million more to add the 60 residents of Lackey to that new updated system. And so, we had talked with Mansion. It looked like maybe 4 million might go toward the project, but we needed another 3 to make sure that the folks on Wellwater and Lackey would also get connected. So at least for McDowell County, it really is a matter of ensuring that they get the grant money necessary to get the projects going, and ensure that the ensure that the folks in Lackey are also included on that, and not left with the well water that, as you see, is obviously compromised.
And thank you for that detailed explanation. Appreciate that. I'll pass it over to our group. So now I had been reading articles that are very interesting in the sense that the funding for this, does this exist? Does the funding for these upgrades exist? Is that a complicated question? I'll pass it over to whoever wants to take that one.
So, short answer, yes. The funding, the money is out there. It's just a question of directing it to the most needed places and getting these projects funded. And I'm assuming, Natalia, that the articles that you're referring to has something to do with the Water Development Authority, which has been in the news quite a bit recently, for diverting, or I shouldn't say divert, but awarding money to projects that are not water related, right? Including the one that made the big splash in the headlines, was a $5 million grant that was given to a private school in Ohio, not even an in-state school, but an out-of-state school for non-water related projects to occur, which, as Caitlin just talked about, we need in Anawalt anywhere between $6 and $7 million to get that project funded. That 5 million would have gone a long way to getting that project funded. Now, it's perfectly legal, from my understanding, for the Development Authority, the Water Development Authority, to award money to non-water related projects. But as I said in a recent op-ed, just because it's legal doesn't make it right. As long as people are having to worry and not being able to trust the water that comes out of their taps, then it is unconscionable to me that the state of West Virginia is spending money on things that's not earmarked to fix those problems.
Yeah, and to jump off of that, like the Charleston Gazette was reporting that like only 2.5% out of like $430+ million went to any coalfield counties. Yep. So that was only the equivalent of like 4 out of 160 projects that were approved for water went to McDowell and Wyoming counties, or well, out of any coalfield counties, but only 4 of those were, in those areas. So all of that to say is like, my understanding is it was a lot of American Rescue Plan money that was supposed to be awarded out. And it was also listed under like economic enhancement is the reason they got away with trying to say, well, we'll build a Bridgeport recreation complex. We'll put a park in Buchanan. We'll give, money to that out of school or out of state Catholic school for economic enhancement. But meanwhile, the people that are living here don't have clean water.
Yeah, and if I
Right.
could just, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but yeah, and Betty and Diane both can attest when I go out with them when we're delivering water to folks, which they in Lackey and Anawalt, they deliver door to door to their neighbors. And the times that I've been able to be a part of that with just having conversations with folks, when they say you can understand after hearing what Caitlin just said, you can understand why they say, well, we feel that we've been forgotten. We feel like that we've been abandoned. We feel like our elected officials, the people who have the power to do something about this, just don't care about us.
Can you show us that water again?
So
this is what we're dealing
So
with.
this came out of Diane's bathroom sink today. First thing this morning. And again, you can see the settlement on the bottom. This came, which tap did this come out of?
My kitchen faucet right before I left to come down here and look at the bottom. It's got
Yeah.
settlings in it too.
That came out of her kitchen faucet. And
At about 2:30 today.
yeah, and this is as good as that's as clear as her water ever looks on any
Wow.
given day.
Wow.
Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not drinking that.
No. I don't think anybody in any place around the world is drinking that water, let alone here in the United States of America. So do you have anything else to add, Diane and Betty, about the funding and how you see this funding situation shaking out?
I see Anawalt being pushed back, pushed down. Another area is being put to the front to get whatever money they need. And I know they deserve it, but I think we're a small group, a small town, and again, they're just shoving us under the table, or as one young man told me, well, maybe 2 years down the road, And I told him, I'm 75 and God only gives me one day at a time. And 2 years down the road is too long. 2 years down. And it is. Diane has kidney problems. I hope I said all right, Diane. Yeah. and there's potential, lots of potential for the Anawalt Leckie area. But without water, who would come in? Who would put anything in there with water like that?
To add to what Betty said, I own 23 acres. Usually twice a year, I get random phone calls from people out of state. I don't know how they got my information, how they found out the land I own, but they want to buy my land and everything. But I'm not interested in selling at all. But there are people. We've had some move into the area that are building homes. We've had some buy homes in my area, and their family members want to buy homes in our area. But the people that have already came, one couple just tore down the house, going to get ready to build a new house. They had 3 wells on their property. None of those 3 wells are usable. The house is not started to be built yet because the water issue. Or right now they have a container, they have a camper set up. When they come, they have a container that they go and get water in that container to use while they're here. And getting back to my water situation, we don't drink it, we don't cook with it, but I even wonder about using it to wash my dishes in the dishwasher. I even have bad feelings about that. The inside of my dishwasher is orange. I use every cleaner, I use bleach and everything, but that orange is stained now. All my pipes are probably stained. Everything in my house, my showers are a daily chore to clean and everything like that. It's just ridiculous. And the problem, like I say, I've lived on the same property for 70 years. And this, in the last few years, has this really become an issue.
Well, what do you, so I'll pass it back to Reverend Davis and Reverend Ware. What are you all doing to bring attention to this issue? Well, obviously we're doing this, but how and what are you doing to bring attention to this issue? And how can our audience help as well? Because I know that there's a lot of people out there watching. I'm sure who want to help.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, Natalia, and thank Reimagine Appalachia for shining a light on the situation, for amplifying what's happening and raising awareness, making your audience aware that we're having these issues down here. And Caitlin and I, as part of From Below and the West Virginia Faith Collective, as well as the folks involved with the churches that I pastor, are all advocating for solutions. We are we've held a couple of different community meetings at the church in Lackey at Boys Chapel to organize community members to try to advocate, to give them a voice, to advocate for solutions. We've got an action coming up in a couple of weeks where we're bringing residents from all three of the communities that are impacted that I serve to the state capitol to meet with lawmakers and urge them, because they, at the end of the day, they're the ones with the power to get something done about this, to urge them to do that, as well as present them with a petition that our colleagues at West Virginia Rivers have been circulating. It's got somewhere between 700 to 800 signatures on it, urging for a solution to the problem to be found as well. So yeah, we're just amplifying voices and trying as best as we can to shine a spotlight on the issue so that nobody is able to forget about Anawalt, about Leckie, about Gary, about McDowell County, about the Southern West Virginia coalfields. We're not going to let them forget that we exist, and we're not going to let them forget that the people here built this country on the sweat of their own backs, and they deserve to have clean drinking water, as do all people, because it is a gift. It is a gift from God. Clean water is a gift from God, and all people are made in the image of God and therefore deserve to have access to clean water.
Thank you. We had a question from the audience. Well, first of all, I'll say to one of our commenters, may I comment to the group? Yes, you may comment to the group. So feel free to do that and we'll see your comment. Someone said, a fellow Betty said, would it do any good to deliver some of Diane's water to the governor? I know you talked about doing some advocacy work. Maybe you could talk a little bit about, your travels and your petition. And
yeah, well,
like
we are the trip to the Capitol that's coming up on the 19th of this month that I just referenced. We're asking impacted residents to bring samples of their water with them, to show the lawmakers, show them this, and ask them, would you drink this? Would you bathe in this? Would you wash dishes with this, or wash your clothes with this? And I should have mentioned before too, we have asked for a meeting with the governor. Now we have not heard back yet about that, but if we're able to get in the same room with Governor Morrissey, we'll definitely show him the water.
Yeah. I know y'all are active on Facebook, and any other social media sites, maybe. Reverend Ware, do you want to mention a little bit about where people can find you?
So we have a Facebook group. It is a public group. It's on just From Below, Rising Together for Coalfield Justice. And we post daily on there. So you can find not just updates on the water crisis throughout the coal fields, but also about, the history, the culture, what's happening in the news down there. Because again, there's not a lot of news sites down there, or print news and local news. And so, we have that group. We also have on X, formerly Twitter, it's at Holler Gospel. The name is From Below, but at Holler Gospel. And Blue Sky is also at Holler Gospel, same deal, From Below. And we post at this rate almost daily as well. So we're posting water updates, happenings in the area, and just celebrating the coal fields and trying to make, get more attention on the area, because it has a lot to offer.
Caitlin, give the info of how folks can help out too.
Yeah. So I know there's been a donation link that's popped up a couple times on the bottom of the screen. You go to hopeinthemountains.com, and it should say Hope in the Mountains in Sophia, West Virginia.
Get it right. Get it right.
I know, I got to get it right, Sophia. But donate to, you want to make sure to put the memo line as Hope for McDowell, so that it's designated specifically to McDowell County. We also have another account up and running for our water trailer, or water buffalo. That's a little bit harder to find, and I will just say, go on our social media pages and you'll find the link. But
Yes.
that way, that would go directly towards like the gas to transport the trailer, to fill it up at the city of Welch and deliver the water. And so that's going directly towards keeping that trailer going. And the hope for McDowell is to keep the organizing going, making sure that we were able to keep a foothold in McDowell and keep this work moving. So yeah.
Well, thank you. We have about 1 more minute. I took some extra time because I know we got a late start. So we have about 1 more minute. I don't know if anybody wants to sign us off here, but before we do that, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Thank you for keeping up the fight and working on behalf of all of your neighbors. We're here to help in any way we can. And if you follow Reimagine Appalachia on social media, we'll be posting updates to this story, and we have already posted a number of articles and whatnot, but definitely follow From Below on social media. But again, if you follow Reimagine, we'll be posting information on how to sign the petition and how to help as well. But anybody want to take us away?
I would just like to again thank you, Natalia, and Reimagine Appalachia for having us today. And thank Betty and Diane for making the trip down to Welch to join the call today, so that everyone joining us could hear their stories, because their stories are important and they need to be heard. So I'm just thankful for all of you. Thanks for having us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I like to say I looked on YouTube, and I've never looked on YouTube before. But there are Jenkins Jones. Somebody went through Jenkins Jones, and that's where the church that we attend, one of the churches, we take turns. You can go on there, and somebody videoed all the way through Jenkins Jones, and you can see our church. And I'm proud of our church.
Oh,
And then if you go on Boyd's Chapel, it's on there too. You can see our church and how we carry the water off that hill and on that hill for the people to come and get.
well, I'll look for it. I'll take a look out. I like to watch that stuff. So, yeah, that's what I do. There. not to get off on a different tangent at the last minute here, but I have certainly watched my share of driving through West Virginia videos. It's a little hobby of mine. So
Well, make sure you look at Jake and Jones and
I
voice
will.
them.
I'll take a look out for you. I'll take a look
Well,
out for you.
I'm not on there,
All right.
but my church is. God bless y'all.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, and God bless. Thank you all for the work you do.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.